Welcome to MasterLearn. I thought this was an interesting article from the Business Insider. We're in this digital space now. It's becoming more and more digital over time, but with the acceleration, I'll say, of events out in the world, we are now more inclined to be working at home, depending on the nature of the work or the nature of the business. So some companies, it appears, have been becoming a more creative about seeing that they are having staff who are working and are diligent and are operating in integrity. Whereas in the past, it seems we had a pretty solid honor code. And I can't speak for every organization, but I would say generally organizations understood that in order to have a productive team, you had to trust them to do their work. And there was a trust, a quiet trust. Didn't have to speak about it. You're hired for a role, fulfill your responsibilities, and in turn, the organization fulfills its side of the equation. Mind you, as we begin to talk about the dynamics between professionals and organizations or employers, we will get into the state of mind that's important, the energy that you as a professional need to adopt when you're dealing with organizations, which should not be a lopsided affair. You should not have to kowtow, beg, plead, or feel subordinate to the organization that is employing you. Essentially, you are contracting out your talents and your skills for compensation. And in turn, that organization is providing an opportunity. So you need each other. Therefore, there should be a meeting of the minds. In any case, let's get to this one here. Employees at home are being photographed every 5 minutes by an always on video service to ensure they're actually working. And the service is seeing a rapid expansion since the outbreak. I'm aware of the tags and the focus on media or recordings or videos that utilize that word there. So I likely won't be using that word specifically. Excuse me. I'm aware of that. So let's continue. As the virus, right, spreads, companies are increasingly being forced to work from home, and some are using online conference tools to try to prevent a dip in productivity. Well, this makes sense. There's a lot of disruption, and especially organizations that tend to be working in person and may not have logistics or strategies in place, because who would have thought that a ton of companies would have been told that they cannot operate at normal capacity? It's unexpected. So companies are using these conference tools. It makes sense. Zoom is one of the most popular. Some are turning to tools like Sneak. Now, this is interesting, and I am having a bit of fun while going through this with you because it speaks to a certain, remember, this is all about energy. At the metaphysical level, this is all about energy. So it's speaking to a type of energy. It's speaking to a type of mental state that an organization or the guiders or the leaders in these organizations have. Some are turning to tools like Sneak, a group video conference software that's always on by default. I actually have to look into that application. Sneak features a wall of faces, quote unquote, of employees at a company, automatically taking a photo of employees through their webcam every 1 to 5 minutes. Interesting. Sneak was never designed to spy on anyone, co-founder Del Curry told Business Insider. We'd be the worst spy company ever considering we named our app Sneak. So can we look at the irony of the situation here and the psychological tactic of being able to put something out there first and make fun of it or poke at it so as to reduce its seriousness. They call it sneak. That's just outlandish. They're being pretty exaggerating with the intention there. And then this message here, never designed to spy on anyone. Well, as we'll explore, my instinct here is that it's going to imply this, but if you didn't want people to suspect that this was a software to fulfill this kind of purpose, you wouldn't name it Sneak, would you? You can also see here as I scroll back up to this, Sneak, this is not even the proper spelling for the word. So it's a play. They're having fun. And again, as a psychological tool, having fun to play down the seriousness of the energy behind the creation of the software. Let us continue. Working from home can make it feel like managers have less direct supervision over workers. So we start off here with the sentence of about control. Managers have less direct supervision over workers. Now, is that the intent or the purpose of a manager? It's a philosophical question. There are managers who have different styles. But I would ask, both for the manager, as a manager, do you want to have more supervision over your workers, or do you want to have less supervision over your workers? Do you want to have the ability to trust your workers to do the job that they have signed on to? And for the workers, do you want to have more supervision over you? In other words, micromanaging. Or do you prefer to have less supervision because your managers trust you? Let us continue. But an always-on video conference tool changes that by automatically snapping webcam pictures of employees every few minutes. So let's just get the idea here. You're sitting down at your computer, and every 5 minutes, a picture is taken of your space, right? So it's a picture of you, I suppose, wherever you're sitting. So it's going to just capture a photo. Let's continue before I begin to dig a bit deeper, as I have a sense of where this is going. Companies across the world have been forced to abandon offices in favor of working from home in recent weeks to try to slow the spread of the illness, which has sickened more than 39,000 people in the US alone. So this was at the time, this article was some several weeks back, of course. In order to keep productivity high while working remotely, some companies are turning to tools like this Sneak. The software features a wall of faces for each office, which stays on throughout the workday and features constantly updating photos of workers taken through their laptop camera every 1 to 5 minutes. So not only is the software able to just take a picture, I mean, it's doing it several times. Who knows how many times, right? Within every 1 to 5 minutes, just capturing a photo of you. Sneak's user base has rapidly expanded in recent weeks as companies transition en masse to work from home. Signups have increased tenfold in the past few weeks, co-founder Del Curry told Business Insider. It has over 10,000 users and boasts clients including Fred Perry, and Go Fish Digital. I'll be very curious to research the list of these organizations and examine their company cultures. You should know how to research company cultures so that you can detect energies, you can detect states of mind, you can detect values and principles that exist within an organization. You can do this by their social media. You can do this by going to their website. You can do this by reading their blogs, press releases, social media posts, and sites like glassdoor.com. And I would be curious to see some consistencies in these companies' cultures. Let us continue. The software's interface lets people set their webcam to automatically photograph them every 1 or 5 minutes. Thought just comes to mind, would this have to be a requirement in order to stay on the job? As this software didn't exist previously for an organization, I would be curious to know, should a company integrate this technology Is this a deal breaker if an employee decides not to accept having their picture taken every 1 to 5 minutes? The software interface, I read that already. Let's see here. I see. The software's interface lets people set their webcam to automatically photograph them every 1 to 5 minutes, depending on how frequently they want their image to update or how frequently their boss requires it. Look at that. So it sounds like this is an ultimatum here. You either take the software, you accept the photos, or you probably won't have that job. The choice would be up to you. So therefore, you can, the power is within the management as well, it seems, to choose how often they want the picture to be taken. If a coworker clicks on their face, Sneak's default settings will instantly connect the two workers in a live video call, even if the recipient hasn't clicked accept. Now, can you imagine the intrusiveness of this? So let's say you clicked on your coworker's face. It looks like it would bring you into a video call and you didn't have to accept it. So you can be forced into a call. And given that this is not video, someone can click on your particular your face, create a live video call and generate the call. What if you're busy? What if you're not at the computer? But the next sentence says, however, people can also configure their settings to only accept calls manually and only take webcam photos manually. And then we have the stipulation here. Get ready, because this is how you continuously see the power dynamic if their employer allows it. So it seems like your employer or the employer would be able to say, the way we're going to set this up, we're going to have pictures taken every 3 minutes, and we're going to set it so you don't have a choice. You all have to have the function of having your live video call. So if I'm the quote unquote boss and I click on your picture, I better see you in that live video, essentially. Curry told Business Insider that while some may be put off by the software's interface, it's meant to build a connected office dynamic. Let's hear it. Sneak was never designed to spy on anyone. We'd be the worst spy company ever, considering we named our app Sneak, Curry said. We know lots of people will find it an invasion of privacy. We 100% get that, and it's not the solution for those folks. But there's also lots of teams out there who are good friends and want to stay connected when they're working together. Now, again, let's go back to the psychological tactic here of putting things out first. What you do is you put the issue out first, and then no one else can put it out for you because you beat them to it. So this person says that it's not designed to spy on anyone. So we know that that's what's happening. We know that lots of people find it an invasion of privacy. We 100% get that. So he's putting that out there. He knows it's an invasion of privacy. It's not the solution for those folks. So he knows that people would likely disagree with it or dislike it. But apparently the good side is that people are good friends, and because of that, this would be acceptable. Now, there are so many ways as an organization and as leadership to create a culture of rapport and friendship, aside from forcing people on a live video and snapping their photos. Let's continue. After Sneak's interface was reported by The Information's Priya Anand last week, some were turned off by the workplace surveillance tool, and that would be proper terming here, a workplace surveillance tool. David Heinemeier Hansen, I pronounced that correctly, CTO and co-founder of the development firm Basecamp, tweeted that the idea makes my skin crawl, end quote. I won't say what he said here, but indeed, I imagine it would make a ton of people's skin crawl, or at the very least, instinctually, it would create some discomfort because it's an invasion of privacy. And outside of just the direct experience of an invasion, the surveillance or the constant watching or the constant knowledge that you're trying to move along with your workday and you know that just in a few seconds, a photo is going to be taken of you, captured and sent somewhere. Another question to me would be, where do all of these pictures get stored? Where are these pictures going? Are they in the cloud? Does the manager just get to save all of these photos? Do they get deleted once they are taken and seen for what they're worth? What happens? Let's continue. Curry acknowledged that the company did indeed get some Twitter fame last week after the information story was published. Sneak was inspired in part by a book on remote work that Hansen co-authored, Curry said. But now the company has received messages from Hansen's followers, quote unquote, abusing our staff and calling us pieces of sh. I wouldn't be surprised by that. The purpose of Sneak isn't surveillance, Curry said, but office culture. Well, I mean, it can be both at once, right? It is an office culture of surveillance. Why is it one or the other? It creates a culture of surveillance. Open quote, we've worked from home for 10 plus years, and one of the biggest things that starts to creep in is that sense of isolation. It does really affect people's mental health, he said. Just having that ability, he continues, to look up and see your teammates there can make all the difference. But there seems to be a disconnection here that the solution to isolation, which I would understand people are or could be experiencing because of being separated for so long. So working from home and not connecting directly with people in an immediate space where the energies are not so intimate, right? It would make sense to me that there is an increased feeling of isolation there or solitude. But it seems here that the solution to this is to surveil people. It would be great if somebody would be able to explain to me the connection between removing isolation and surveillance. I would think that the solution here for the isolation is to create connection, but connection wouldn't necessarily occur from snapping photos of people and forcing a live video. It's very interesting where companies' states of being come from, the connections. So it looks like this has concluded. Interesting read here. The fact that there are 10,000 or so organizations that have been on board with this says something about some companies' cultures and what appears to be important. There seems to be a lack of trust, and that lack of trust did not start by being remote. That lack of trust had to be a seed already in existence while people were on site and working together. If the staff and the management are not able to trust each other remotely, they won't be able to trust each other on site or working together. That's a whole other cultural issue that this organization and these 10,000 others seem to be trying to address. But I suspect, as with any kind of organization and an interview and a candidate, there's going to be a match. So we get what we accept, we get what we negotiate, and people who decide to stay within a role like that for whatever reason, the choice is there, and they are there and accepting for the moment. When it gets to a point that it is no longer acceptable, then those employees will leave, and these organizations will not have people to surveil. They'll only be able to surveil themselves. Any questions, feel free to send me an email. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on this. If you hear of any more surveillance type software, feel free to share with me. Be well.